Welcome to the Day 3 Draft Pick NFL Draft Show 2023, first edition. More members of the team will be joining us over the course of the whole draft process, but we wanted to wait till the combine was over, kind of have a lot more information and see where we stand. And of course, we can't do it without Dante at PayDirt Profile. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. Great to see you too. Great to be on. I'm happy I get to be the first guest here. Looking to get everything kicked off.
So, fun 4-day weekend in beautiful Indianapolis, and you look. They kind of mixed it up with the order of things, and Sunday became kind of the big day with the quarterbacks and the pass catchers out there. But as we start Friday, just defensive linemen and linebackers. We had some guys who ran really well, tested very well, but as I always say, the combine is to verify, not identify. So who's a few guys who you already had on your list and you're like, wow, and then who are a few you were like, oh boy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you mentioned, it's a big production. We had a couple of running backs come and test, and then to get their measurements in and not really perform. One of them, Deuce Vaughn, was measured in at 5'5", and anytime you see somebody who's a statistical outlier, it kind of makes you take a step back a little bit. Basically, all the talk around Twitter was that he was basically off everybody's board. He reminded me in a lot of ways of Kyren Williams last year. When you're looking at guys that are looking for fantasy or guys that are looking for early producers, that profile is not one that's highly desirable. He definitely could still be a guy who comes in as a third running back on your roster, change of pace kind of guy, a guy who can help you out in the return game and whatnot. So definitely rooting for guys like that. Never great to see guys get written off just because they have a one number next to their name. He still has good film, but that was one that was a little bit disappointing to see. I think one of the big risers was obviously tight end Darnell Washington out of Georgia, as well as Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida. Anytime you see guys that are big and fast and test as such, you will see guys that are going to come in and have the tantalizing physical tools, sets that the coaches might be able to utilize and to use on the next level. But my biggest headliner is, and probably will be, Jackson Smith-Njigba, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. That guy has been my wide receiver one all year long, no matter what. Regardless of the injuries, the film speaks for itself. It wasn't a situation where he ran a 40, but I didn't think he needed to. I think he helped him by testing in the top 95, 98 percentile in his agility scores with the three cone and the shuttle. Caught the ball very fluidly. Did well in interviews. Did well in with the media. So I thought those were a couple of winners. And one not so big winners. How about you?
I was very impressed with the guy I was high on, Chase Brown. The numbers he put up, he was even a little bit more athletic than I thought he was. Just with the numbers put up, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. And I told somebody, just watching him run a wheel route, the way he sets up routes, he runs it like a receiver. The wheel route out of the backfield, just a few of the highlights, it's like nobody's even near him. He's really good at that. I want to see how he handles pass pro at the next level, obviously. But he was a guy, I looked at the numbers and I was like, yeah, all right, that's verification on top of what you saw as a player. And I see Bealsma's putting out some pretty good pro products. Now over there at Illinois, his brother, they got another safety. They're starting to, become a factor. So the
Yeah.
next couple of years, and you connect the tea leaves, obviously, him and Belichick are close. So I kept an eye on that to Martin, his brother, Sidney Brown, who had a great combine. Another guy, Blake Freeland, offensive tackle out of BYU.
Yes.
Athletically tested well. When I watched tape of him, my first thought was Nate Solden. Kind of that guy who probably started as a tight end, put a little weight on. He's athletic. He's going to get out in front on screens. And then I saw like the length. I was very impressed. And this Nick Silveria, I can't say his name out of Old Dominion, but his numbers really popped at me. I didn't expect like the measurements that he had. And he's probably, a day 3 guy, probably a 4-position guy when you look at him. He's got the height at 6'6", 318, but the arms at 33 and a quarter and the hands at 10 and a quarter. That's very impressive. So that's a guy you get in your building and you're developing, played at this, smaller school, and see what he can do. And maybe by his second year, he's a 4-position guy helping out until you figure out exactly what he is. Guys like this, it's a good opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, I think with the advent of NIL and the transfer portal, I think it's going to really throw what we're doing here with the scouting, for a loop. You're going to see guys that are going back to school longer. You're going to see guys that are transferring down. Zach Kuntz, speaking of Old Dominion, he tested off the charts at a tight end there. He came down from Penn State. You're seeing guys that are following their coaches down to lesser programs. And, when you have these guys go to the combine and blow it up, then you as a incoming freshman or transfer portal guy or a JUCO guy might say, okay, well, let me come here. They kind of are setting a precedent. They're kind of, moving forward. They're kind of offering these, NIL and different things like that to get me here. I can get seen here with the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, et cetera. So it's definitely good to see some of those smaller school guys kind of knock things out at the combine.
Yeah, it really is. It's their opportunity to get up there and, get a feel. They just kind of become part of the team.
Absolutely.
And at the next level, they're going to be walking into a locker room with guys at an even higher level who played at big levels. So it'll be very, very interesting. Your wide receiver one, that the 3-cone time was what did it for me. Just seeing that athleticism, and we know what the speed was there 2 years ago. Really, before the emergence of Marvin Harrison, he was that guy. And he... the kid who went to New Orleans. See, this is where
Chris Olave.
Chris Olave was kind of always the guy. Everybody was smooth operator, and now Jackson is that guy who's considered that smooth operator running routes. Marvin Harrison, same thing. We'll see in the future. No, the athleticism of Kuntz at tight end, very impressive, and it's kind of gotten to the point we had kind of talked about it where. Really now it's like pass catchers, wide receivers and tight ends. They're pass catchers. The blocking is extra. The days of the Rod Rutledge inline linebacker tight end are pretty much dead. These guys are part of the offense. And Washington was a great example too because, he was very good at Georgia. They ran a lot of 12 personnel because, you got Bowers and him. But his athleticism is so good for a guy who's 6'7", and he's a guy like you see go to Jacksonville and let Ingram be more dynamic, and they can run different formations. Like that would be an ideal fit. Even Cincinnati would be a nice fit for him.
Do you want to know what's hilarious? I was just having a conversation on Twitter. Those are the 2 teams that I was telling someone, like the 11 personnel being the extra 6-man on the end of the line for Joe Burrow and company, being able to do like the Travis Kelce check releases for Cincinnati, and exact same thought process, the 12 personnel being able to block, help out there and kind of bring him along slowly as a route runner, because I do still think that he's not a totally nuanced route runner. I think he wins mostly just with his athleticism in the flat and then just running guys over and stiff arming guys on the sideline. As he gets to be, better, running the sticks, running the over routes, attacking you vertically down the seam more consistently, they can have that crazy 1-2 punch with him and Evan Ingram early on. And then if they need to move on from Ingram, because, I know that they're franchising him and trying to get a long-term deal. But if that doesn't end up working out, you do have some guy who will be waiting in the wings potentially. So those are two great fits that I had the exact same thing, mind meld situation.
Nice. I got a question on the tight end for you. Do you think teams find Michael Mayer too old school?
I think you'll find some. I think that there are enough coaches within the league who have that same old school mentality. Guys like Bruce Arians, he thinks that tight ends are just an extra lineman. So anybody who's along that coaching tree is going to love Micah Mayer because he has that ability to block and the ability to be plus in the passing game. I think we're seeing a more wide open, 11 personnel heavy type of scheme that teams are running. I think it's going to be split right down the middle. I have him as tight end one. I think most people will still have him as tight end one as being that all around, Swiss Army knife type of a player. But to your point, there's guys like Sam Laporta from Iowa who I love. Like Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid out of Utah are those types of guys who can line up in the slot or line up out wide and run wide receiver caliber routes. And you're going to have teams that are going to want to utilize that skill set because at the end of the day, if you can be a great blocker, but if you're not a mismatch, if you're not somebody who can really make it challenging on defenses, you might want a guy who's a better receiver who I can line up split out wide or line up in the slot. So it'll definitely be interesting. I think he's going to be tight end one on most teams' boards. But I think there will be a few, especially analysts who are looking to go the more pass catch heavy prospects.
Yeah, there's now what I'm just looking like the tackle situation in the league, and necessity, not a lot in free agency this year, more right-sided guys. Orlando Brown may be the only real left tackle who's out there, and maybe Trent Brown after he gets cut, but that's, down a level. These guys at the top, Parrish Johnson, what do you think Skorinsky is? And DeJuan Jones is kind of like that sneaky guy too. And the last one is Georgia. So those four guys, just how do you see them positional?
So I think I see Parrish Johnson as a guy who has the requisite size, the requisite strength and movement skills to be left tackle. I think I would probably have the others on the right. I feel like, anchoring and pass pro is something that I think Johnson is superior. Being a run blocker, all of those guys can move with the best of them. If we're coming straight line, we're coming right off the ball at the point of attack. But with counters, with defending against counters, with running the edge around the bend, some of these guys I think are going to have a little bit tougher time dealing with these players in the NFL. I think DeJuan Jones is one of the quintessential guy is a house, literally a house. If you can put him on the right side and just have him, go mostly against your second best edge rusher against the defense and run right behind him, I think you're going to be in a really great spot. But I think it's tough because it's variable. You see guys like Nick Bosa that are moving along the line of scrimmage a lot. You're seeing these edge rushers that are head hunting the inferior tackles. So even if a guy profiles as a left tackle or a right tackle, I think at the end of the day, like we're seeing so much variation from defenses and how they're trying to attack offenses that the positions kind of don't matter so much. They're just talking recently about, Donovan Smith potentially hitting the free agent market for the Bucks, and Tristan Wirfs moving over to the left side instead of the right. And, when he was coming in, people thought that he was going to be a book-in, day one left tackle and no questions asked. But he ends up spending, 2 years on the right side. So I think if I'm a team like Tennessee, I think Broderick Jones, Dwan, those guys are right tackles that I would love to see come in and help me with my road grading rushing game. But really, right now, Paris Johnson, Peter Skronsky, like those are the top guys for me. As the premier left tackles who could potentially come in day one and really protect my quarterback's blind side.
The guy Freeland I mentioned, what do you see? Do you think he can play the left side?
So he is very similar to Dwan Jones for me. Like anytime that you have guys that are just so physically imposing, I have to go back and watch a little bit more tape on him because I was watching a little bit of the quarterbacks and receivers, and obviously you can see this guy is a guy who can dance around with the best of them. But I do see a little bit of stiffness there as well. He's very explosive in a straight line. But I think there's going to be a little bit of a project there. He probably a little bit more than the others could fit playing left tackle. I would probably have him, as the third in line there to take on that role. But he's a guy who is a very smart player. I think I heard a quote saying, that one of the players saying that he was the best player, period, that's ever come out of BYU, which is lofty praise. So I think if there's any player who can come in and take on the challenge, a guy who has shown the athleticism, I don't see the athleticism quite as much translating to the tape, but it's there clearly. So if he can kind of take that technique and mirror that with that athleticism, I think that he could definitely make some hay there on the left side of the line.
Position a lot of people were excited about, defensive back, especially the corner position. Gonzalez tests very well. Witherspoon doesn't test. That's my guy. He's my favorite of that group.
Me too.
So do you look at him and think he doesn't even bend over to tie his shoes? That's how long his arms are. And he's just going to be breaking up passes from like midfield to the sideline.
Oh man, you know what? I think that he's my favorite, and oddly enough, not even in his pass pro. I think he, similarly to Sauce Gardner, I don't think that he allowed a touchdown in coverage this year. You watch him basically be able to read and react against the run game. Oh my gosh, this guy's shot out of a cannon. His mental acumen, like he clearly is on top of his film. He clearly understands what's going on. He's able to snap off if he's in the deep third and, attack an over route or attack a crosser. I mean, he is a special kind of player. But yeah, like you said, man, that length, I don't see him missing a ton of tackles. I see him. There's sometimes that he was beat and being able to play through the guy's hands, utilizing that arm length and utilizing that technique. Yeah, he's a special player. I don't think that he gets past the Lions at 6. If they stay put, he definitely fits that mold that Campbell is looking for. Tenacious guy, loves to come down and hit guys in the shallow crossers and the flats and in the run game. Great player.
Yeah, no, unfortunately that's where I think he's going to end up. And just talking about the Lions, you go corner and what other position defensively? Because it's really the defense you're trying to build up.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some mocks with them going edge, and I don't really think that would be my primary focus. I mean, Pascal was injured a ton. Why am I blanking? Aiden Hutchinson, great season. They even had another edge rusher, Houston, I think, 8 sacks.
Yeah, number 2. Yep.
Yeah,
He
like
had that penalty in the Thanksgiving game. That was
yeah, I mean that's been the primary focus for a lot of mocks, but I think right now I think it's going to largely depend on how the board falls. Their offensive line is very strong. If there's some quality linebackers there that they're interested in kind of bringing along, if they wanted to, go with the safety position and try to help bolster their back end, I think Branch is going to be available. I think it might be a little bit early, but tight end as well. I mean, Sam Laporta to me is a guy who fits that mold. Anytime you're going to have a guy who's going to test well athletically, anytime you're going to have a guy who's going to be tenacious, anytime you have a guy who's going to come out of Iowa at tight end, they know how to build those guys up. They know how to train them. He would be like an easy plug and play for Hawkinson. So I'd probably go safety or tight end, depending on who's on the board. Tight end obviously being a little bit deeper of a position. So if you can get the premier safety and corner as well and fix that back end of the defense where they struggled mightily last year, I think that they're coming out rock solid in the first. What about you?
No, with a Spoon and Branch, I think that would just be grand slam.
We didn't even talk about this before. We're hot. We're mind meld, and we didn't even chat about these players at all beforehand. I agree 100%.
No, we've always seen things the same way. Even like when we talk in Slack, I'm like, I wasn't the one who typed that. That was so they're one of the teams with multiple first-round picks. Seattle, another one. Is Anthony Richardson somebody who could be on their radar? Is somebody who a year could develop and then be the guy in that system? And I used to think 20 was that spot. Is 5 possible for that spot now?
It's going to have to be. It's going to have to be. Any team that is interested in Richardson, we're at a situation with the quarterback play in the league, and I probably am one of the aforementioned most quarterback haters on Twitter. I love the game of football, but like this position is coddled and put on a pedestal more than any other position I think I've seen across any sports. But the reality is that the quarterback play was mid last year, to be kindly. There are a lot of players who are making a pretty penny and not elevating their teams in the way that we have seen in the past. And I think a lot of teams are looking for, how can I find the next Patrick Mahomes? How can I find the next Josh Allen, the next Joe Burrow? How can I find a guy who's going to elevate my team, when the chips are down? And Anthony Richardson has that tantalizing athleticism and playmaking ability, where if you get a quality coach who can, kind of help him with his mechanics, help him be a little bit more sound there, help him be able to be a little bit more consistent. I mean, he checks the ball down when it's available to him, but the offensive scheme they were running at Florida was not quality. He throws the ball away. He tries to take care of it. Like there's a couple of mental mistakes here and there, but you're going to get that with a rookie quarterback. I think if he's there at Seattle and they can find a way to like franchise tag Geno Smith, it gives him a lot of leeway to kind of sit and learn without the pressure of jumping in early. However, I think that he's a guy who can go in there, get you probably 15 to 20 touchdowns with probably 10 to 15 turnovers in year one. And then slowly but surely you want to see that turnover to touchdown ratio kind of normalize. His completion percentage will slowly but surely come up. I think that he would be a home run for any team that's in that top, 5 to 10 that can afford him that ability to, play in the second half of the season maybe, or even play, year 2 if possible. But I think Seattle, with what they want to do in the run game and how they want to stretch the field vertically with DK and Lockett, would be a home run. But yes, absolutely, 20 is out of the question. Any team in that area is going to have to come up.
Yep. No, that definitely flipped and switched. Even with the mock today, I was like, the hype is there, and once you start throwing the Cam Newton comparisons and
Mm-hmm. Do you think that what he did in the combine is going to obviously it's going to affect his draft capital, but do you think it's going to help him leapfrog any of the other quarterbacks? I mean, I know that for the most part he was probably 3 or 4, quarterback 3, quarterback 4 for most players or most analysts. Do you think that he's a guy who could be seen ahead of Young or Stroud at all?
Yes, I do. Yep, I'm starting to believe that. I think the hype train's coming for that. It's the 3 of them and Levis who are the top 4, and I don't see it. You know how there's always that 5th guy who slides into like 20. We talked about this last year, like 29 to 32. Like a team trades up just to be able to get that 5th-year option on a player, especially with the quarterback position. I don't know if there's that guy this year.
I think it's gonna depend a ton on how teams see Hendon Hooker and a guy like Max Duggan. I think both of those guys are not first-round guys in my eyes. But as you mentioned, would a team say, "Look, let's get this extra year price controlled and see what we can do, see what we can roll out"? I mean, Duggan had a really strong combine in regard to his athleticism. I think we saw Hooker, have one of the better seasons. But obviously there's, he's coming out of Tennessee. He's injured. He's an older prospect. There are all of those things that provide apprehension. But like if Hooker, gives, quality interviews as it seems like he's done so far, and he's able to come back and do anything at the pro day, he might be that guy who can sneak in as the 5th if there's a team that's willing. I mean, I know Tampa Bay has told people that they're willing to give Kyle Trask the opportunity to start, but I think that they would be a team that would be very smart to take Hooker. It'll be cheaper for them than trying to move up and let those guys battle it out. Maybe add another veteran in there, bring Gabbert back, or another cheaper veteran. And hopefully you come out with a starter and a viable backup in that group.
Blaine Gabbert says he'll come back, but he says as long as I'm not playing. I do a great job with the clipboard.
Did he really say that?
No.
Oh my God.
I kind of want to get him a vest that says emotional support. Like,
oh my goodness, the player coach.
I'm here. I don't want to go on the field. So Kyle and Hendon, yeah, I'm just here.
He needs to go back up like Mahomes or something like that, where the one time that he ever plays, it'll be for one quarter with Kelsey and all these weapons and Andy Reid, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna look really good for this one game or one quarter, and then I'll hop back out and get my Super Bowl ring. He needs to hop on a squad like that.
So 3 receivers, I really was interested coming in. One of them was on the smaller side, Tank Dell. I enjoy him. Rashee Rice, him putting his foot on the ground and just spinning at defenders, it's a thing of beauty. I may hang it on my wall. And Zay Flowers from BC. When I watch him, I get a lot of Deebo Samuel vibes.
Zay Flowers?
Yeah.
Okay.
That he could do all those different things. Those 3 guys, are they challenging the upper level with Quentin Johnson? And
I think Flowers has that ability to do so. I think he can do all of the things that Deebo is doing. I just don't see him with the similar BMI and body style that will allow him to do so in a long term and be successful without getting hurt. But I do agree that I think he can win in all those same ways. I don't foresee them being able to challenge the top end, top 3 at the position, just because I feel like there are enough question marks there that if I'm a team, I'm going to either wait and let somebody else take those other upper echelon guys and let me see where I can fall in, or I will just, if I have a needed receiver, just take one of the upper echelon guys. Tank Dell, to me, I ended up putting a post on Twitter. It was a photo where it was a still shot of 8 players next to him, and I said he had a 53-yard play on this catch, and then subsequently posted the video. He's crazy in compact spaces, really solid agility, long speed. I think playing for a team similarly to the Chiefs, he has that Mecole Hardman style where if he's a second or third receiver, he can have those explosives in the return game and really take the top off of a defense. But I don't think the production will match. I think what he's going to bring to the table for an offense is going to be more viable in the confines of helping that offense move rather than the actual production, which you're going to want to see from those early round prospects. Rashee Rice, similarly, I feel like he is a better all-around receiver than Tank Dell. A guy who can win a little bit more in the red zone, a little bit more nuanced of a route runner. Definitely fits into that what was it, Romeo Doubs kind of mold from last year, and we saw him come in early year one and have some flashes. So I think that Rashee Rice has that ability. But if I'm looking out of those 3, I think Flowers is the only one that really has the potential with his all-around game to challenge those top 3 receivers. I think I have Flowers at receiver 4 or 5 right now. But I would only have him as the one who can challenge those top 3.
So, looking at linebacker position, Trenton Simpson, just from I hear different things. I see him getting drafted much later, but I also hear people say, I went to watch Murphy film or Brissy film, and I ended up watching Trenton Simpson film. So, is there a size thing? Because the linebackers in this league are going that way. The athletic, the Nakobe Deans of last year, who goes, 85 overall, rather than what people thought in the first round. Is that what's happening with Trenton Simpson, or is that going to get corrected this year?
I think that is what's happening with Trenton Simpson. I think we're on the front earlier steps of a long-term shift at the position. I think when it comes down to those undersized guys, that you do need to have that infrastructure set up for them to succeed. If you don't have, the quality 1 and 3 techs, if you don't have, the guys that are going to be able to 2-gap in front and keep those guys clean, they're going to get washed out in the run game over and over and over. So I think the apprehension a little bit is trying to have the roster construction to be able to support those guys, because right now, as it presently constructed, only certain teams can do that. The rest of them are going to bring in that guy as, a sub-package linebacker. He's going to play, nickel. He's going to, if you're a high nickel team, you might, see him on the field a little bit more. But if not, and that guy's not going to play for you right away, and he's not going to be an impact player for you right away, then you're going to see that guy drop a little bit, not for any fault of his own, but because maybe we don't deploy this player in that type of way. I think if Simpson was to come out in the draft, or Dean were to come out in the draft, 3 years down the line, I think you're going to see these types of players get drafted earlier, 2 or 3 years from now, than they are right now. I think that they're just getting drafted in an inopportune time.
So not sorry, my brain scattered, everybody. Sorry. Trying to get over.
We're just chilling.
Yeah, we're just chilling and talking. Where I was going with this. So like you said, the 3 and the 1 technique in front, like you're looking at the Saragusa in front to free it up for Ray Lewis.
Absolutely.
Trailer and Washington freeing it up for Urlacher when he was a young player.
Yeah,
that's what we're looking to do.
Absolutely.
And allow him to cover too, because he can cover man, pick up a running back, pick up a tight end.
Yeah, really great athlete. He can do all the things that you're wanting for that player to do when you're talking about going against these 10 and 11 personnel teams. They're going to putting a Zay Flowers in the slot when they have two strong outside guys and he's coming across the middle. You're going to want him to be able to, read and react and make a tackle, in zone, or you have a tight end that's coming and you have to guard against Travis Kelce. You're going to want this guy to be able to, run toe-to-toe with them. So I think he's going to be able to be successful. But yes, as far as draft capital is concerned, we're probably going to see a little bit more of those types of players get drafted a little bit later than we would like.
Because we've even gotten to the point running backs drafted later. Bijan Robinson, probably a first-round pick. How high are we talking? Because I kind of have something in my mind, and I want to see if it comes to fruition. But where do you have him going?
It's really challenging because personally, I kind of look at roster construction a lot differently than average analysts. You should be getting good players. Like, it doesn't matter what their position is. You should be getting good players. This guy is a quality human being. He's a person who is great in the locker room. He's a person who's a great leader. Oh, and then, by the way, he's one of the best running back prospects, that we've seen, in the last decade or so. I think everything about his profile says that he should be a guy who can go in, the top 10 to 15 player or 10 to 15 picks. But we understand, positional value and how that affects, teams' decisions. So he'll probably get pushed back to 15 to 20 potentially. I find it challenging with knowing teams are going to be jockeying for these quarterbacks to slot him to any specific team. But I think he's 1,000% a top 10 to 15 talent at the running back position. And any team that does make that move, I know that the rookie pay scale kind of makes some adjustments around that 12 to 15 spot. So maybe you get him there as opposed to in the top 10, and you can kind of save yourself some money, get that fifth year, and still have an upper echelon talent. I think that, that 12 to 15 is probably going to be the sweet spot for him. But any team that takes him is going to be in a much better spot and have, kind of a home run hitter, really solid run game for the next 5 years. Where do you think he's going to go?
All right. I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to go back to this. So, thoughts on two guys who were drafted last year at quarterback, both in the NFC South. Desmond Ridder and Matt Corral. Do you think they are the starters day one on their NFL teams?
Matt Corral, no. I think he's a little bit more slight. I think he had that RPO style offense coming out of Ole Miss. It was a pretty quick decision maker, a quality prospect, but I think that they're in a position where they're in striking distance for an upgrade. Desmond Ridder, I would stick with Desmond Ridder. I think we spoke here last year, and he was my QB1. I had him had he come out in the draft the previous year. I had him around what was it, QB3, like where Trey Lance was. He was my QB3 A, with Trey Lance being the 3B. I had him ahead of Zach Wilson, and that's how highly I was on him. Really great leadership, really great intangibles. Mobile. He showed that he was able to, get you into the right plays and perform on third downs, which is, very important, especially for a young player. I think he has some inconsistencies with his accuracy, which is the same thing that you're seeing from Levis and the same thing you're seeing from Washington or Richardson. So unless you're going to move all the way up thinking that Stroud is going to be so much better of a passer for you because he is an inferior, rusher, or Bryce Young is going to be so much better of a passer for you, I think that if you're the Falcons, you're in a better spot to stand pat, move forward, give this guy a full year in the offense as the main guy. And guess what? If he crashes and burns, you go all in next year for Caleb Williams. Like I don't subscribe to the idea that quarterbacks need to be put on a pedestal so much so that we're doing that with non-elite prospects, or we're doing that with people who have the same kind of question marks. If you have a young guy with some question marks, and you have a young guy that you have to trade up multiple draft picks with question marks, I would rather just give this guy a shot to see what he can do, and then just go all out next year as a Caleb Williams tank. I don't know what the tank for Caleb Williams moniker is going to be yet, but whatever that is, we'll do that next year.
Swill for Williams.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking at 9, even if Corral would be more of a player. He was a 3rd-round pick, and kind of bringing a running back into that fold there. It's just, I know it's a different coaching staff, but Bijan at 9 with the quarterback situation, the receiver situation there. I just, kind of fun. They drafted Icky last year to play left tackle, so they've got some help up front. I just think it would be an interesting fit.
I agree. I think that it had Derek Carr not gotten signed to the Saints this morning, and he showed up, and he was going to suit up for the Panthers, I think that Bijan right there would have been a home run. Being able to help out your passing game, because they do have some weapons there. Foreman is fine. He did pretty well. I like Chuba Hubbard. He did pretty well. But basically you're saying, hey, we want one player who's going to be able to do both of those things, not have to dictate anything to the defense, utilize those assets elsewhere. I think the Falcons could do the same thing. However, they have Algier, similar situation to Foreman. Have him under contract instead of having to bring him back. So, maybe in that situation they didn't want to, but both of those teams are in that position to really, really help out their offenses with a Bijan. As a Falcons fan, I think we could go Witherspoon or Murphy if they're there. But if we took Bijan, I would be ecstatic.
Yeah, no, that I'm an Algier guy, so I was very happy to see what he was able to produce back last year. But if you had a good mix, you mix him in for the tough yards, and he's kind of one of those guys I could see finishing a game. There's not many of those guys left in the league anymore.
Right.
And I think Leonard Fournette, when he gets signed, is going to be that guy. Whatever team it is, he's going there to be the closer.
Right.
To end the game. That's a lost art, kind of like a blocking tight end. That's they're on the same thing. They're on the same fossil boat right now. So.
I think we've seen teams be successful with them. So it would probably make more sense for people to keep this conversation and listen to Buddy in the back of their mind when roster construction. It would be great to have that player on your roster who you can rely on later on to finish a game for you. Because even if you're looking at those Super Bowl teams who don't have the very expensive rushers, they all have formidable rushing attacks. So they need to keep those in mind.
So the quarterback carousel, getting out of the draft for a second. What's next? What do we hear next? Are we hearing about Lamar getting franchised and where he's ultimately going to be traded? Because I don't think he's in Baltimore. I think he wore out his welcome, and I really don't think he's going to be there.
Really? Where do you think? Where do you think he would end up?
There's one man crazy enough in this league to do this and throw maybe a whole draft to go Mike Ditka. And his name is Jim Irsay. And he brought in a quarterback coach or a head coach who just coached Jalen Hurts and could really run the same system with Lamar Jackson.
That would be scary. I've heard nobody talking about that, and that's an actually great point. If you're trying to throw 4 and, maybe you throw because, I think if they transition tag him, it'll be 2 firsts in the contract. So if you tell him, hey, we're going to give you whatever the contract that he wants, let him name his price, and you're going to get 4 and, a 25 first because, hey, we're giving you number 4 overall pick. We're going to push this first back another year. That could be very intriguing.
Who's crazy enough to do it? He's been going to the used car lot. Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers. I mean, just go back over the years. You know, the used car lot, he's been there. He's at the new car lot right now. He's looking for something fancy. It may be used, but, you know, it's got a big title on it. And I think that's where he goes. And when I saw the offensive coach hired, I was like, kind of the fit. Kind of exactly the fit. Like the Mayflower trucks going from Baltimore to Indy, so does Lamar.
That headline would be crazy. I think right now the next domino to fall sounds like it's Daniel Jones. It seems like, you know, the reports right now are that anytime today or tomorrow that they're going to sign a deal. I'm sure that this Derek Carr domino really hurt his case, because it sounded like he was asking for about $40 million, which is absolutely asinine. But with Derek Carr's deal coming in at about 37.5 or so annually, it sounded like they wanted to get him at about 35. So maybe the sides can come to an agreement on getting him pretty close to Derek Carr money, which I still think is way too much. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, we understand how these things work out. So I think that's probably the next domino. The Aaron Rodgers situation is really tough, because Aaron Rodgers can affect like 3 teams at once with his decision. The Jets, you know, with the Hackett connection, they're really hoping that they could have gotten Rodgers or Carr. Clearly, you know, Green Bay would love to have him back, but they do have, you know, Love there. And who knows? I mean, would you want to go play for the Raiders, reunited with, you know, Devontae Adams? And he's from, you know, California, played in Oakland. I mean, it's not the same now that they're in Vegas, but I think that he could enjoy that. So I think that Rodgers domino and the Jones domino could really affect a ton of what's going on, because if Jones goes back, Rodgers finds his way over to, you know, Oakland. Now we have Love in Green Bay. Then we have maybe Jimmy G finding his way to the Jets, you know, to come back with Saleh. And all of a sudden we have teams like Washington. Are they going to stick with Howell? We have, you know, I like him too. He was my core QB2 last year, and I was really devastated when he fell. But it sounds like they enjoy having him on the roster right now. So hopefully he gets a shot. So we'll see.
Yeah, and then there's the aspects we don't know, like the little, you know, is there something brewing in Dallas with Dak? You know, are they looking to move on from there? I'll just tell you a name that I know is on the trade block. There we go. I'm jumping around. 2 teams are looking at Steph Diggs. Brian Daboll at 25, Dallas at 27. I believe it's their pick. Both have talked to the Bills.
Okay.
Worn out is welcome.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think the kind of outburst at the end of the playoff game was kind of something that really had the team sour on him a little bit?
You can't MF the defense when they walk off down 14-0.
Yeah.
Doesn't go over.
That's true. Oh, man.
Can't do it. So that's the Giants need a receiver, and they just cut Galladay to free a lot of money.
So that would be huge. That would be huge for Daniel Jones' development to have Diggs come over. If they can find a way to bring Saquon back, if they can get him a long-term deal for Jones and bring Saquon back on the tag, all of a sudden you have a group of, I know everybody was talking about it forever, the triplets. Do you have the Dallas Cowboys, you know, the Emmett, the Aikman, and Irvin? Do you have a set of triplets that would give them, you know, a strong core on offense for sure? Yeah,
no, that's one of the names over the next week to definitely keep an eye on.
I was not aware. I'm going to keep my ears open.
You know,
now.
Leslie Frazier's out of there. There's a lot of cracks in that foundation.
Right.
Yeah. Miles Sanders is a guy who could possibly be going there to play running back if Devin Singletary leaves. But they may go Sanders and Fournette to see how it goes. Kind of a mix with Naheem Hines running over Miles Bryant again for another touchdown.
James Cook.
James Cook there too. Yeah, it's there's gonna be some interesting movement, and Jacobs being franchised, I think, is kind of a big deal by the Raiders to go out of their way to do that too. But the franchise tag is so low for running backs that it's not even, it's like tight end, like Engram in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But no, we got to get together a lot more.
It's why. Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, I enjoy our talks as we talked about before. We didn't even compare notes, but we're on the same wavelength in so many opportunities, and this is a really fun time of the year while people are maybe picking up a new dynasty league, or kind of just looking for different information. Like when you're here, I learned a lot today. I had a lot of nuggets that I was not even thinking about. So if other people are coming, I'm sure that we'll be able to deliver those, some thought-provoking content. So I think it'll be a good off season for us for sure.
And what's fun is for our draft evaluation, there'll be more to talk about. But actually, somebody in for the pass catchers who had a pro day last year, NFL pro day, and an all 4-year offensive lineman who was all conference. So
wow.
We brought in some bigwigs to help us with evaluation and just kind of teach everybody what it's all about. And we'll be doing videos and just kind of what they know, pick their brain, give you more of a feel of maybe what teams are looking for. Or, when they go to a pro day, what are they doing there? Just running around. Like, what did you prepare for? It's interesting. You don't hear about somebody else's job interview. So.
Right. I'm looking forward to it. For sure.
Sounds good. So at paydirt_profile for Dante, at E2G founder for me, although I'm not really a ton on Twitter right now. We'll be having more shows coming up, the group of us, and we'll let you know about the package coming up and where to look for evaluations, because we're going to be doing it a different way with our own twists, and I really think people are going to enjoy it. Just seeing the prototype and having everybody, pitch in, do this. This stands out just to give you a different feel and everything. And the fantasy crew too. All right, E2G Sports signing off. Have a great day. Don't be afraid to share on YouTube and like and subscribe. We're over 1,090 followers. Let's keep it going. All right, everyone, take care. This was very therapeutic. I needed this. Thank you, Dante.
No problem.
Have a good day.
Help. Take care, guys.